Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on what time you're watching this. But wherever you are, I hope you are all feeling okay. So today we're going to discuss about levels of measurement, and it's the continuation of our discussion on introduction to statistics. And this is very integral in our future lessons. So I hope you understand the lesson well, and if you have questions, please do not hesitate to ask me. Okay, so we start by defining what is measurement. So I know that measurement or measure is such a common word, and as discussed earlier, in research we are expected to measure. And numbers, when we measure it, they mean a lot of things. Okay, so measurement is the use of rules for assigning numbers to different levels of a variable. Variables can take on many different forms and level of sophistication. The relationship between what is being measured and the numbers that represent what is being measured is known as the level of measurement. So if you have read in advance, you know that there are four levels of measurement. So there are three important functions of numbers. Number one, numbers are used to classify or categorize. So if we are going to classify or categorize, we are dealing with nominal data. If numbers are used to rank or order, that to rank or order, um, we are dealing with ordinal data. But if we want to assign a score, we are dealing with either interval or ratio data. Okay, so we are going to discuss each one. Okay, so we start with the lowest level of measurement, which is called your nominal data or nominal level of measurement. So when a number is used to simply name, label, or classify, then the level of measurement being used is the nominal level. Okay. So sometimes in our researches, and the most common variable that you have to deal with is gender, and when you process it, you may assign them with numbers to simplify. So instead of writing male, you assign it with 1, and instead of writing female, you assign it with 2. Okay? But these numbers do not have mathematical meaning because these are just mere labels. So it doesn't mean that I will assign 2 to female and 1 to male, females are greater than male. So, hindi ganun yun. Okay? So, if the purpose of the data is just to, or the purpose of that number you assign to that data is just to classify or categorize, then the level of measurement is just nominal. The key characteristics of nominal data is number one, it cannot be quantified and cannot be assigned to any type of order. So, hindi siya, wala siyang order, as in, female is not greater than male if we are talking about gender. Number two, the values of nominal data are allocated to distinct categories. And number three, those categories have no meaningful order. Whether assign it to you as 10, 9, or even 100, they have no meaning because para lang siyang codes just to classify. So what are the examples of my nominal data? So the examples are men and women, hair color, housing style, marital status, and ethnicity. So last time I let you answer the student directory. So most of them actually are nominal data or nominal level of measurement. So number one is the internet connection you're using right now. I asked you to choose from mobile data, prepaid Wi-Fi, and postpaid, and many of you answered postpaid. So I'm just categorizing. For example, I assign 1 to mobile data, 2 to prepaid Wi-Fi, and 3 to postpaid. These are just way of categorizing or classifying. Another example of nominal data is year level. I assigned you, or if I would assign 1 to first year, 2 to second year, 3 to third year, 4 to fourth year, these are just nominal data. It doesn't mean a 4 is greater than 1 because they are just classifications. And another nominal data that we dealt with is the preferred mode of communication. And so, as you know, we assign numbers when we process them because we want to simplify. For example, yun nga, lalo na pag mahaba yung mga sagot nila, sometimes we just want them to be classified as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Actually, we can assign them as 99, 97, or just random numbers like 24, 357. But we wanted to make it simple, so we just use 0, 1, or 1 and 2, 3, 4. Yeah. So the second level of measurement is your ordinal data. So as the term itself, ordinal, there is some order. So yun yung dapat yung tandaan. When we deal with ordinal data or ordinal level of measurement, there is some order. So often numbers are used not only to classify cases but according to categories with some order. Okay, or ranking. So yan, the keyword here is order or ranking. Okay. So the key characteristics of ordinal data is number one, ordinal data is placed into some kind of order. So ibig sabihin nun, you know, something is greater than the rest kasi meron siyang order. Okay? Ordinal numbers only show sequence. We can assign numbers to ordinal data, and we cannot do arithmetic with ordinal numbers. We don't know whether the differences between the values are equal. Okay? So, one example here is this one. World Competitiveness Ranking. So, when we see or when we check the ranking without even minding the values it has, these are ordinal data. Okay, so even if we imagine that these numbers do not exist, let me use the highlighter. When these numbers are unknown and you rank them, these are ordinal data. Okay, so just like this one, without looking at this one or without looking at the numbers here, ayan, there are top 10 most competitive economies. So number one, Denmark, two, Switzerland. Assuming that we don't know the difference between them, this is an example of ordinal data. Okay. Another one is the household wealth by residence. So there is some order because we know that poorest is the lowest level, the next level is second, third highest level is middle, fourth, and the wealthiest. So we don't know the difference between them. Okay? So as you can see here, some have more and some have less. So we know that they have some ranking or some order. Ayan. So this uh, ordinal data is definitely higher than nominal data because in nominal data, di ba, nagka-classify ka lang pero ito meron ng somewhat or order at may meaning na yung numbers in this case. So we preserve the ranking and they are not mere labels anymore. They have meanings. So when we assign one to poorest, so second is 2, middle is 3, fourth is 4, and the wealthiest is 5, they already have meaning. Unlike yung sa nominal data na gender, female, male na wala siyang meaning. Okay? Another one is rankings of provinces in terms of competitiveness. So these are the highly urbanized cities. What we cannot see here is actually Baguio City. I think it's rank 17. So when these scores cannot be seen, okay, and we are the provinces are ranked from first to 10th, and we don't know their difference. I'm emphasizing that because if we know the difference, that is a higher form of data that we will discuss later on. So if we don't know the scores, or if we don't know the difference, that we just know that first is Quezon City, second is Manila, third is Pasay, fourth is Davao, and so on and so forth. These are ordinal level data. Okay. Another example is this one. Usually the Likert scales or the customer service form that they ask you, and I think Likert scale is usually ordinal data. We deal with ordinal level measurement. So about what are you feeling, and how satisfied are you with the service. We know that 5 is higher than somewhat satisfied is higher than neutral, etc., etc. So there is some order or ranking. Okay. More examples of ordinal data. So you asked, sabi gusto nyo ng marami example. Ayan. So examples of ordinal data is, yan, first, second, and third person in a competition, economic status, low, medium, high, letter grades, A, B, C. And we don't know the difference. Take note of that. And education level, elementary, high school, college graduate, customer level satisfaction, such as satisfied, neutral, and dissatisfied. These are examples of ordinal data. Okay, another level measurement, which is the third one, is the interval level measurement. This is used when the classification has some order and the difference between the categories is known. Okay, the examples here is temperature. Ayan. So, the example here is temperature. For example, 15 degrees is colder than 23 degrees by 8 degrees. When the temperature is 0 degrees Celsius, it does not denote the absence of temperature. It simply denotes the freezing point. Bakit yan yung example natin? It's because when we deal with racial level data, there is an absolute zero. Okay? In interval level of measurement, there is no absolute zero. So, ibig sabihin nun, when we say that there is when we say 0 degrees Celsius, it doesn't mean na walang temperature. Gets ba? So, kaya siya interval level data kasi wala siyang absolute zero. Okay, such as age. It doesn't mean na zero yung age mo is wala ka ng age. Okay? So, um, if for example, dito sa temperature is, if Manila is 30 degrees Celsius and Baguio is 15 degrees Celsius, my question is, can we say that Manila is twice as hot as Baguio? Okay, for example, I'm here in Pangasinan and the temperature is what? Around 30 degrees. Ano pa nga yun eh. Malamig na yun sa ganung lagay. And if in Baguio, the temperature is 15 degrees Celsius, can we say na doble ang lamig ng Baguio sa Pangasinan? No. Okay, but we can say that 15 degrees, there is a 15 degrees difference, and we can just say that it is warmer in Pangasinan than in Baguio. Okay, so temperature in degrees and in Fahrenheit has no absolute 0 point. Okay, so pag sinabi natin 0 degrees is just a freezing point, and it does not indicate the absence of temperature. Okay. So interval data, this refers not only to classification and ordering of measurements, but also specifies the distance between each value on the scale, and the distances between each value on the scale are equal. Okay. So, Key characteristics: interval scales that only show you the order and direction but also takes up differences between the values. The distances between each value and the interval scale are meaningful and equal. There is no zero point or fixed beginning, and you cannot calculate ratios. So example there is later on I'll give some examples. But the examples, typical examples here is time of each day in the meaningful 12-hour clock, temperature, IQ test, which is your intelligence test scores such as SAT and test scores. Age is also a variable that is measured on an interval scale like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Measuring an income as a range, dates, and voltage. Okay. So some real life examples of interval data is this age sex pyramid of the Philippines. The data here, as you can see here, is interval data within I think four to five for age difference, right? So this is standardized. So when you use this data, nakaganito na siya, naka-form na siya na ganyan. Kasi it will be very difficult. As you can see here, di ba, as we have discussed in the facts and figures, it's used to simplify. These figures are used to simplify. So it will be very difficult for the statistician or yung gumagawa ng data or nagko-collect ng data na i-ano lahat, 0 to 75 or 79 tas i-graph sa isa. So, yan, ginawa yung interval data. So, another example is your IQ test. Ayan, 70 to 79. You know, the difference is exact. Okay. And the highest form of data, and konti lang yung difference niya between interval data, is the ratio level data or ratio level measurement. So it has all the characteristics of interval data, plus having an absolute 0 point which denotes the absence of the characteristic. So, ang magkakaiba lang ng interval ratio, guys, is yung ratio, there is an absolute 0. Ibig sabihin, pag 0 siya, wala talaga siyang characteristic na ganon. Okay? So, as the interval scales, ratio scale show us the order exact value between the units. However, in contrast with interval scales, ratio ones have an absolute 0 that allows us to multiply and to calculate ratios. So, example there is weight, Kelvin scale, kasi meron siyang absolute 0. 50 Kelvin is twice as hot as 25K. Income earning naman, so pag 0 talaga yung income ng family, 0 talaga. So it's possible, right? Minsan mga negative, right? So and the number of children. So because of its properties, racial level data is the highest level of measurement. We can do more with it than other levels. The nominal data is the lowest because all you can do with it is label. Okay, so as we discussed the different types or different levels of measurement, I hope you realize na very important siya kasi um you need to classify the data according to these levels of measurement so that you will know what to do about it. So for example, I asked you to get the mean and nagkaroon ng no, ang data na dinideal mo is nominal data. Is it possible? Kasi when you want to deal with gender and you want to assign female with 0 or male 1, ganyan, in Excel, makakakuha ka ng mean or sabihin natin 1 at 2 parang hindi 0, makakakuha ka ng mean. So, pag 1, 1, 2, 1, 2 lahat, or 1 point something ang nakuha mong mean. But the question is, does it mean anything? Okay, nagigets nyo ba? So, ibig sabihin nun, kailangan mong malaman kung anong level of data that you are dealing with so that you would know what the statistical tool are you going to use. Okay? So these are examples of the racial level data. So first is household composition. Pwedeng 0 yan. Yan, 1 to 9. Yan, kaya meron tayong mean size of households. Okay, another one is COVID cases and we really want to achieve that na yung daily cases natin ay 0 or near zero, di ba? So, zero is possible. Ayan. So, to wrap up the discussion, academic performance can be measured in many ways. Okay. So, we need to analyze this one. So, number one, makakakita kayo ng ganitong uh, grading system na ginagamit nila is A plus, A minus, A, B plus, C plus, etc. Okay. So, think of it now. What is the level of data are we dealing with if this is the way to measure the performance of a student? Okay, sige. Think of I'll give you a little time to think. Okay, if your answer is ordinal data, then you are correct. Usually ordinal data. Okay. So, um uh, you need to ask yourself if you really want to know if the data is what is nominal, ordinal, or interval data. You need to ask yourself. Okay. Number one, yung first level na question natin, can we classify it? Okay. So, yes, we can classify it. So, next level ka. Can is there some ranking or um something is higher than the rest or lower than the rest? The answer is yes, kasi alam natin na A plus is, di ba, is higher than B in this case. Okay. But the next question for interval data is the difference known? Okay. If we do not know the difference and if we do not know that the difference between A plus to A minus is are equal, or the differences between them are equal. Like, hindi natin alam na kunyari A plus is like 97 to 100, A minus is um, 90, 93 to 96, ganon, then it is safe to assume that it is an ordinal data. Okay, but if we know the difference, it can be interval. So, if the difference is known, it is an interval data. So, ang keyword kasi natin for interval data is the difference is known and the differences are equal. Okay. Another one to measure academic performance is this one. Ayan. So, I think SLU uses this grading system from 0 to 100. Ganyan. Okay. So, what do you think is the level of measurement are we dealing with when you are faced with this grading system? Okay. I'll give you time to think. Ayan. If your answer is racial level data and racial level data, then you are correct. Okay, so actually, zero is possible in this grade. Kasi for example, they have, I think, for nga, may quiz and zero on grade, zero, wala kang nakuha. So, zero din ang grade mo. Okay? And, of course, you are familiar with this one, the grading system of UP. So, our grading system is 1 to 1.0, ay 1.1 to 1.0, 1.25, 1.5, etc., etc. So, what kind of data are we dealing with this one? Okay. Actually, this data is an example of if your answer is interval data, then you are correct. Okay? Unlike kasi sa SLU, they have zero and you know na pag nakakuha siya ng zero, then it's absolute zero. But this one kasi, number one, you classify. Number two, there is some sort of order. Number three is the differences are known, that the differences are equal, but then there is no absolute zero. So this is actually the interval data. Ayan. So my question is, which of the following ways on how you measure academic performance is the best? Okay. So if you are dealing with this academic performance, the best way is actually this one, yung 0 to 100. It is because, di ba dito sa UP, parang paras kayo ng grade na 1.25, pero you know na pwedeng iba-iba yung grade ninyo. Like, kunyari, 97 to 100, yung isa, 99 yung grade, yung isa, 97, pero para silang 1.0. Okay? This one is, alam mo talaga na, okay, I am greater than the rest, so ito yung highest. Unlike din dito, sa A plus or B plus, hindi rin natin alam kung ano yung numerical competition niya. Okay? So, um, ayan. So, yun. So, to summarize this one, ayan. When we want to categorize or label variables, we talk about nominal data. So as you can see here, meron tayong 4 characteristics at padami yung characteristics ng bawat level of measurement. So if we want to rank categories in order, we can deal with both nominal and ordinal data. So if the data has known equal intervals, then we can deal with uh, interval data. And if it has a true or meaningful zero, then we deal with ratio level data. Parang mali yung sinabi ko kanina. Pero sa ranks, pag may ranking, we deal with ordinal data. Pero at the same time, we label. Okay, pag interval, we label, we rank, and has equal intervals. The differences are known. And pag ratio level data, we categorize, we label, we categorize, we rank, it has unknown equal intervals, and has an absolute zero. Okay. So, I think another summary is here. Ayan, yung nominal name variables, pag ordinal name plus ordered variables, pag interval is name plus or categorized, or classified plus ordered or ranked plus proportional interval between variables, and ratio is name plus ordered plus proportional interval between variables, and can accommodate absolute zero. Okay. So, just a piece of advice, and nung undergrad din ako na Ma'am Gladys taught me, so ano, parang it really makes sense. So, word of advice when doing research, always measure your variable at the highest level possible. You can convert it to a lower lower level if you want to. So actually, for example, pag income, ayan, get your respondent to tell you their income in pesos, yung exacto. Okay, saka mo na lang sila i-convert into intervals kasi hindi mo naman masusulat lahat na okay, may income ba na 5 pesos, 10 pesos hanggang 1 million, ganyan. You can convert it na lang later on. Okay, alam niyo kung bakit? Kasi lower level measures cannot be transformed into higher level measures. If data is collected using age intervals or brackets, they can no longer be disaggregated. So for example, nag-ano ka na kagad, interval ka na kagad ng income mo, like 0 to 10,000, 10,001 to 20,000, 20,001 to 30,001, ganon. Hindi mo na siya matatransform into racial level data kasi hindi mo alam yung exact. Okay? But, if ang kinuha mo naman is yung exact numbers, like, pwede lang isulat 27,753, pwede ka pa rin gumawa ng interval data. Okay, at pwede mo pa silang ma-rank or order. Ito yung wealthiest, ito yung poorest, ganyan. And you can classify, di ba? Classify mo na, ito, this or, yun nga, these are the wealthiest group, these are the poorest group, although they have rankings. And yes, diba? So, dapat, if you can measure it at the racial level, you need to measure it at the racial level. Okay? Kasi pwede mo siyang ma-transform into lower levels. Unlike pag naka-lower level measure ka na, at ginawa mo na lang na check-check na lang sila or puro rank or and order lahat or interval data lahat, hindi mo siya matatransform into ratio level. Okay, so that's it for our discussion on levels of measurement. So I hope you learned a thing or two. So if you need to rewatch this, please do so. And if you have clarifications on what I discussed, and please do not hesitate to ask some questions via email or via your in the group chat. So malay niyo, pag sa group chat, your questions might also be similar to your classmates. Okay, and we will answer them together. Okay, thank you guys for listening. I will now end this.